Hello, welcome to Lesson 6.7A. I've entitled this video, Manifest Destiny and the Mexican War. This video is going to cover pages 392 to 396. Manifest Destiny in California and the Southwest. In the mid-1840s, only about 700 people from the United States lived in California. Every year, however, more Americans were moving west. Manifest Destiny. There were many economic, social, and political causes for this westward expansion. On several occasions, the United States government offered to buy California from Mexico. Some officials were eager to gain control of the ports at San Francisco and San Diego. Soon, westward expansion became a major priority for the nation. The roots of Manifest Destiny. In the 1840s, an editor named John L. O'Sullivan created the term Manifest Destiny. The term meant that the United States had the right to spread across the continent. Manifest means clear or obvious. Destiny means something that is fated to happen. The social roots of Manifest Destiny lay in the belief that Americans had the right and the duty to spread their culture across the continent all the way to the Pacific Ocean. Question number 1. What was Manifest Destiny? That was the term coined that Americans felt in the 1840s that we had the duty, the fate, and the right to spread our culture and our peoples across the continent all the way to the Pacific Ocean, which answers question number 2. The goal of Manifest Destiny was to spread the United States from the Atlantic Ocean to which ocean? The Pacific Ocean. Americans who believed in Manifest Destiny thought that westward expansion would also open new opportunities. To many Americans, the fertile farmland and natural resources in the West were prime opportunities for economic growth. Manifest Destiny and westward expansion had some negative effects too, however. Many white Americans believed that they were superior to American Indians and Mexicans. They used this belief to justify taking lands belonging to people whom they considered inferior. So question number 3. What were some reasons why Americans believed in Manifest Destiny? They believed it would open new opportunities. They believed there would be access to fertile farmland and natural resources there that would help our country and them have economic growth. Question 4. What was the biggest negative effect of Manifest Destiny? Taking the lands of people that already lived there, for example, the American Indians and Mexicans. So this racism, this belief that our American culture and race were superior to theirs, led to us being, in essence, bullies. Polk and westward expansion. The political roots of Manifest Destiny and westward expansion took hold during the election of 1844. The Whigs nominated the well-known national leader, yep, you guessed it, Henry Clay, for president. Clay had opposed the annexation of Texas. The Democrats chose James K. Polk, a little-known candidate from Tennessee who wanted to add Texas and Oregon country to the Union. Question number 5. Who were the two main candidates in the presidential election of 1844? They were good old Henry Clay and James K. Polk. Question 6. What was Henry Clay's views on annexing Texas? He was against it. He was opposed to it. Question 7. What two areas did James K. Polk want to add to the United States? He wanted to add Texas and the Oregon country. Here is a map, as you can see, of the election of 1844. This is a view of not just the popular vote, which, as you can see, was very close, but in the Electoral College, and as you know, that's what matters, in the Electoral College, it was a much bigger victory for the Democratic candidate, James K. Polk. So yes, once again, for the third and final time, Henry Clay is defeated to become President of the United States. On Election Day, Americans showed their support for westward expansion by electing Polk president. Acting on his campaign promise, Polk reached an agreement with the United Kingdom in 1846 over Oregon country. The two countries divided the territory at latitude 49 degrees north. Britain got the land north of the line, and the United States got the lands south of the line. And here you can see that treaty line. So this is what became British lands, which eventually became Canada. And this here became our future states of Washington and Oregon. So question number 8. Who won the election of 1844? That was James K. Polk. Texas proved a more difficult problem. The United States at first had refused to annex Texas. Senators feared that annexing Texas would cause a war with Mexico. Meanwhile, Mexico feared the United States would go ahead with annexation. Out of desperation, Mexico offered a deal. It would accept the independence of Texas if Texas rejected annexation. Texans, however, would not give up on joining the Union. They spread rumors that Texas might ally itself with the United Kingdom. This scared Congress into passing a joint resolution in 1845 admitting Texas to the Union. The annexation of Texas set the stage for conflict with Mexico. Question number 9. What did the United States do to Texas in 1845? We annexed or added Texas to the United States. Question 10. Why was Mexico angry at the United States in 1845? Because we annexed Texas, and that drove them crazy. The Mexican-American War. The annexation of Texas outraged Mexicans. They had not accepted Texas independence, much less annexation. They also worried that Americans might encourage rebellions in California and New Mexico as they had in Texas. At the same time, Americans resented Mexico. They were annoyed when Mexico rejected President Polk's offer of $30 million to buy California and New Mexico. Many Americans felt that Mexico stood in their way of our country's manifest destiny. So once again on question 10, why was Mexico angry at the United States in 1845? Because they had not accepted Texas independence, let alone us taking Texas as part of the United States. And they were also worried and concerned that we might also encourage rebellions to take place in California and New Mexico, just like in Texas. Question 11. Why was the United States angry at Mexico in 1845? Well, we were angry because, number one, they refused to take our generous offer of $30 million to buy California and New Mexico. And secondly, we felt like they were standing in our way of our country's manifest destiny. The clash begins. A border dispute finally caused war. Both the United States and Mexico claimed the land between the Rio Grande and the Nueces River. In January 1846, Polk ordered General Zachary Taylor to set up posts in the disputed area. Polk knew the move might lead to war. In April 1846, Mexican troops crossed the Rio Grande and clashed with the Americans. At Polk's urging, Congress declared war on Mexico. Americans were divided over the conflict. Many in the South and West were eager to fight, hoping to win new lands. Some Northerners opposed the war. They saw it as a Southern plot to add slave states to the Union. Still, the war was generally popular. When the Army called for volunteers, thousands of recruits flocked to the cause. Question number 12. How did President Polk use a sneaky tactic to start the Mexican-American War? He sent his general and his troops into some disputed land knowing that the Mexicans would probably cross over and clash. Therefore, he could convince Congress, look, the Mexicans attacked us, we need to defend ourselves. This was just a sneaky little way to get the war started. Question number 13. Why did Northerners and Southerners not agree over the Mexican-American War? Well, many in the South and West were eager to have this war because they realized when we win this war, there's going to be new lands, and those new lands mean new territories that become states, and because those states are in the South, that means more slave states, and more slave states means more power in Congress, which can further keep slavery legal. And to answer the Northerners, they were not liking this war in general because they were afraid this would add more Southern slave states. Fighting on multiple fronts. During the Mexican-American War, the United States attacked on several fronts at once. General Taylor crossed the Rio Grande into northern Mexico. In February 1847, he met Mexican General Santa Anna at the Battle of Buena Vista. The Americans were outnumbered more than 2-1, but they were better armed and better led. After fierce fighting and intense artillery fire, they forced Santa Anna to retreat. A second army under General Winfield Scott landed at the Mexican port of Veracruz. After a long battle, Scott took the city. He then headed toward Mexico City, the capital. Sorry for that. A third army, led by General Stephen Kearny, captured Santa Fe without firing a shot. Kearny then hurried on to San Diego. After several battles, he won control of Southern California in early 1847. And you can see the different paths. You can see here's Taylor, and here's the attack on Veracruz by Scott. Here's Kearny going into that area. So this map sort of shows you the three main fronts of the Mexican-American War. So question 14. In general, how did the battles in the war go for the United States? Oh, they were going very well for the United States. Even before hearing of the war, Americans in Northern California had begun a revolt against Mexican rule. The rebels declared California an independent republic on June 14, 1846. They nicknamed their new nation the Bear Flag Republic. Within a month, U.S. forces claimed California for the United States. Led by John C. Fremont, pictured here, rebel forces drove the Mexican troops out of Northern California. Question 15. What did the rebels in California do on June 14, 1846? They declared California an independent republic and named it the Bear Flag Republic. By 1847, the United States controlled all of New Mexico and California, and Scott was headed for Mexico City. Blocking his way was the Mexican army in a well-protected position. But in the ensuing Battle of Cerro Gordo, American troops outmaneuvered the Mexicans, who suffered heavy losses and were forced to retreat. Then, at the edge of Mexico City, Scott's forces faced one last obstacle. Teenage Mexican cadets, or soldiers in training, made a heroic stand at Fort Chapultepec. Today, Mexicans honor these young cadets as heroes. At the battle's end, however, American forces captured Mexico City, and the war was essentially over. Scott's Mexico City campaign remains one of the most successful in U.S. military history. Question 16. How are the battles of the Alamo and Fort Chapultepec similar? Well, in both battles, you had a heroic stand made by people who knew they were probably going to lose and were outnumbered, but they still stood their ground. And that is why Mexicans today celebrate that stand much the same way we celebrate the Battle of the Alamo. The war ends. The Mexican-American War officially ended in 1848 when Mexico and the United States signed the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo. The treaty required Mexico to cede, or give up, all of California and New Mexico to the United States, and you can see the Mexican cession shown here on this map. These lands were called the Mexican Cession. In return, the United States paid $15 million to Mexico. So once again, you can see this huge chunk of land that we received for $15 million. Question 18. What was the Mexican Cession? The lands that we took, or, well, purchased, if you will, for $15 million from Mexico. Those would include modern-day states of all of California, all of New Mexico, all of Utah, parts of Colorado, parts of Wyoming, a large portion of Arizona, and portions of New Mexico. In 1853, the United States paid Mexico an additional $10 million for a strip of land in present-day Arizona and New Mexico. Americans needed the land to complete a railroad. The land was called the Gadsden Purchase. With the Gadsden Purchase, many Americans felt that their dream of manifest destiny had been fulfilled. And as you can see on this map, you can see that we started with the 13 original colonies, and then we spread into this land, these lands here. And then we purchased the Louisiana Purchase, and then we ceded from Spain, Florida. We annexed some more lands, Texas, the Oregon Country, Mexican Cession, and finally the Gadsden Purchase. And so that would be complete of Manifest Destiny, at least on this continent. Next year, you'll study how we also take Alaska and Hawaii to complete our 50 states. Question 19, what was the Gadsden Purchase? That was the purchase of this strip of land here in the southwest part of the United States. We purchased that from Mexico, and we spent that money so that we could complete a railroad. Question 20, a life lesson you can learn from the material covered in this lesson. Oh, there were many life lessons. I hope you found several to choose. Well, thank you very much for watching. Instead of a joke today, I have a couple of memes on Manifest Destiny. Here we see James K. Polk saying, "My God, sanctioned right to conquer you sounds kind of harsh. Let's go with Manifest Destiny." And then we have this one.
Manifest Destiny, here to rescue your land from you we are.
Well, thank you very much for watching, and have a nice evening.